Hello all, it's week 6. This week we're going to talk about the entrepreneurial mindset. So we've spent some time reading and exploring MSU's entrepreneurial culture. One of the things important to our orientation is that we don't necessarily see ourselves as producing entrepreneurs per se. That is, we don't imagine that each and every undergraduate student involved in entrepreneurial education is going to go out and start a business. What we're most committed to and what's most important to us is helping students cultivate an entrepreneurial mindset. So in this short week 6 overview video, I'm going to talk about the entrepreneurial mindset in today's digital context and in the larger context of producing T-shaped professionals. Several of you in your Creativity Quest 1 web pages quoted Bruce Bockenheimer. Bockenheimer is a clinical professor of management at Pace University and says that entrepreneurship is much broader than the creation of a new business venture. At its core, entrepreneurship is a mindset, a way of thinking, a way of acting. It's about imagining new ways to solve problems and create value. The Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship defines the entrepreneurial mindset as the attitudes, skills, and behaviors needed to succeed academically, personally, and professionally. And they list these as including taking initiative, being self-directed, engaging in calculated risk-taking, being flexible and adaptable, and engaging in problem solving. The Encyclopedia of Entrepreneurship was published more than 35 years ago. It includes an early identification of some of the characteristics of an entrepreneurial mindset, which you can see here. I would argue that some of these entrepreneurial traits are still necessary, but others are anchored to early 1980s culture and perhaps aren't recognized as key or good traits today. For instance, I think we have a much more nuanced orientation toward what was called egotism and aggressiveness. In themselves, these are not necessarily characteristics favored or valued today. Empathy, however, isn't on the list, and I think empathy has emerged as an absolutely crucial entrepreneurial orientation. Empathy extends beyond getting along well with people or just having a sensitivity to others. Empathy means being keyed into another person's feelings, stances, and experiences. Empathy means being able to emotionally, psychologically, and intellectually understand what the other person is going through from their frame of reference. You're going to read this week, week 6, about Generation Flux. One of the people highlighted in the overview article from Fast Company that we're going to read is Dana Boyd, who is a principal researcher at Microsoft Research and teaches at NYU. Boyd situates Flux as happening in media, and she says there's a difference between the old broadcast world and the networked world. Think back to the Did You Know videos we watched during week 2 of class and what they showed us about media changes. In the 1940s, there were essentially 3 networks, NBC, CBS, and ABC, and almost all TV content came through these 3 networks. This was truly a broadcast context. The content of these 3 networks was broadly aired and consumed. Today, there are thousands of television channels, including web-only channels, and narrowcast typically tops broadcast. And by narrowcast, I mean really specific channels for a very particular audience. We've gone from 3 networks controlling and broadly casting content to very specialized networks like the Golf Channel. In the 1940s, when those 3 networks dominated our media scene, there was no internet. Today, however, you're not just consumers of digital media, but we're producers of it. You all created and published websites for Creativity Quest 1. On Facebook, which hosts more than 2.3 billion active users, 400 new users sign up every minute, although we've learned over the past year that a huge number of these new users are fake accounts. User writer and output on Facebook is incredible. More than 500,000 comments are posted every minute. People use Facebook for a variety of reasons, but Facebook's potential for humane engagement was evident, for instance, in 2015, when more than 770,000 people donated more than $17 million in 1 week after an earthquake in Nepal. On WordPress, which is literally the backbone of the web and the most used content management platform, users generate more than 1.4 million posts per minute. and more than 46 million comments are posted monthly. What you're seeing on the screen right now is 10 seconds of live WordPress activity. And more video content is uploaded every 30 days, primarily through YouTube, but also including other sites like Vimeo, than all of the networks combined have produced in the last 30 years. And not surprisingly, 1/3 of all online activity is watching video. And we definitely should still consider books a medium too, even though digital interfaces have changed the ways we read. On fanfiction.com, just one of the thousands of fanfic sites online, users have produced more than 800,000 pieces of writing based on or related to or remixing or riffing from the Harry Potter characters, plots, and themes. And that's up more than 20,000 submissions since just 1 year ago. Dana Boyd is also talking here clearly about networked power. More and more of us have the ability today not just to consume, but to create and distribute media across vast spaces and places via the internet. But Robert Safian, one of the authors of the Generation Flux article we'll read this week, notes, the vast bulk of our institutions, educational, corporate, political, are not built for flux. Few traditional career tactics train us for an era where the most important skill is the ability to acquire new skills. Many of you are going to go on to have jobs in the next 5 or 10 years that don't exist now. We can't deliver to you the particular specific abilities to succeed in jobs we can't yet imagine. What we can do, though, here at MSU is equip you with skill sets that transcend specific jobs and situate you to continue to learn beyond college and across the transformations you'll see in your professional life. Another way to consider this is offered by Baratunde Thurston, who says, flexibility of skills leads to flexibility of options. To see what you can't see coming, you've got to embrace larger principles. And in this context of flux, I would argue you need to be T-shaped. And this is a concept that Michigan State University has adopted and innovated around over the past few years. When you walk across the stage at the Breslin and receive your MSU degree, we want you to have 5 key skill sets. First, you have to be able to think analytically and critically. You have to ask questions about the world around you. You have to imagine possibilities to address big, wicked problems. Second, we want you to recognize and respect cultural diversity. You will live, work, and play in a world that's connected in ways we've never before seen. To succeed professionally, you have to have an orientation to understand different ways in which people see the world. We want you to see yourself as citizens of local, national, and global communities. Being a citizen to me means actively participating in and shaping the world around you. Being a citizen can mean participating in and actively contributing to a community on campus, like joining the Student Entrepreneurship Association. To me, the distinction between someone who's just a member and someone who's a citizen is that citizens see themselves as part of the group and the community and actively contribute. You must graduate an effective communicator across media. You have to be able to communicate to different audiences for various purposes, putting the most effective means to use. This might mean writing a memo. It might mean creating and delivering a slideshow. It might mean creating web content. You can have the best idea in the world, but if you can't communicate it, it's not going anywhere. Think back to the Tempo Run example from class. The short video the Tempo Run team produced allowed them to secure the venture capital they needed to develop the app. They knew the best way to grab the attention of potential investors was through a short, compelling video. And finally, we want you to graduate as a person who engages in what we call integrated reasoning. And by this, we mean we don't want you to just see the world and experience it as a mechanical engineer or a supply chain management professional or an accountant. We want you to be able to think across your MSU experiences and draw from the work you've done in the sciences, the humanities, and beyond. So these 5 core capabilities are the crossbar of the T. These are the broad skills you'll cultivate. the skills that equip you for a culture of flux. You will also, of course, when you walk across the stage at the Breslin, graduate with a degree. You'll leave with discipline-specific knowledge and deep understanding of field-specific and professionally anchored ways of knowing, thinking, and problem solving. I like to think of entrepreneurial thinking as the connection point between these broad and deep skills. The ability to lead, to think innovatively and creatively, the ability to take calculated risks and to fail forward. All of these are key skills that connect across the broad and deep skills you'll develop at MSU. And if you leave MSU a T-shaped person and professional, you're well situated to thrive in a world characterized by flux. Our first reading this week is by Seth Godin, a magical unicorn who has written some of the most compelling, sharp, thoughtful, and incisive books in the last 20 years. You read some selections from his book titled Linchpin, Are You Indispensable? In it, Godin makes claims about the workplace today and what we can do to make sure that we're indispensable in our workplaces. He suggests a list of 7 abilities of the linchpin, which includes delivering unique creativity. Our second reading and creativity case comes from Fast Company, a trade magazine that's an incredible resource for entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs. Fast Company was launched in 1995 and since then has published some of the most innovative articles about changes in business and trends in entrepreneurship. We're going to read a piece that I think complements Seth Godin's ideas and that argues for Generation Flux. The piece provides a great view of today's current business climate with an emphasis on how digital networks have changed the economic and the cultural landscape. For our creativity case, you're going to look at the list of Fast Company's most creative people 2018 and choose 3 profiles to dig into and read in more detail. So head to our Class D2L site and into the Week 6 materials. Plan some time this week to brainstorm a question and to post 2 responses on Packback. And if you haven't already, spend some time this week with a Creativity Quest 2 assignment. And as always, email me, reach out if you have any questions at all about our Week 6 materials.